Welcome to the Nightly Rant
with
your hosts, Mike
and Torya.
This is the show where we examine society from a sarcastic point of view.
If you like insane conversations, this is definitely the show for you.
Let's get into today's topic. YPN people, I don't know about you, but I love helping out a friend. That's why I want to shout out my friend Brian Little and his podcast, Your Favorite Blockhead. This is the only show that manages to weave together peanuts and MMA into one heck of an amazing podcast. You can find Your Favorite Blockhead wherever your favorite podcasts reside and at yourfavoriteblockhead.com. Do me a huge favor and listen to Brian's show. You'll be entertained and you'll help out a friend. Now, as I said, let's get into today's topic. So I always find it interesting that on most topics, you and I start off in a different spot, but we tend to end pretty close to where each other is. Meaning our ultimate outcome desired is pretty close to one another, but where we start and come at it, how we come at it is different, except for one topic. Do you know what that topic is?
It can't be the only topic.
I think it is.
There's no way in actual hell it's the only
I think
topic.
it is.
So what is it that you think is the only thing we agree on from beginning to end?
History and the importance of remembering history.
Okay.
I mean, tell the listeners your thoughts on that because you word it so perfectly.
If you don't remember history, you're going to repeat it.
And why is that?
Because you're not learning from the mistakes that other assholes made before you.
Right, because isn't life essentially for everybody very similar? You go through different phases. Yes, there's cultural differences. There's, and in that I throw religious as well, but there's cultural differences. There's geographic differences, etc. But for the most part, your phases that you go through in life are the same.
One would think so anyway.
So that's why.
Which makes it even more interesting that every generation thinks the other generations are idiots.
Yeah, exactly. And that's kind of where I was heading with that. It's like, just because something seems a certain way doesn't mean you have to just accept that it's that way.
Okay.
You can stop and say, no, I don't agree with that. I think this is the right way. And guess what? It's okay to disagree. That's part of all of the bigger problem.
What does that have to do with different generations hating other generations?
Well, because they see things and then the other side's afraid to speak up, whichever one it is afraid to speak out about a certain issue because they don't want to piss off the other generation. So they keep their mouth shut. But what I'm saying is they should just be themselves and have the conversation. If you disagree, you disagree. Who cares? We have a lot of things we start out disagreeing on, but we end up agreeing on the end result. So that makes us in alignment. But if you were to just think of it from we have to think of it the exact same way, well, there'd be a lot less of those. And that's with any relationship that you have. And honestly, don't you think that if you found somebody who you thought exactly the same as, it would be a boring way to live?
Probably. They'd probably be that person you spend time with once in a while, but not regularly.
You've opened up parts of my brain by having the approach you do on some issues that I would have never opened up if it wasn't for the fact that you approached it differently. Because... Well, I have so much respect for you in general, okay, as a human being, as a thinker, as somebody who, I would go to ask help me solve a problem. 100%. Would never even hesitate with you. Never have hesitated with you since I first met you.
Okay.
So, with that said, why would it be that sometimes, you find out later that, he thought this or she thought that. And it happens with both of us. It's not just you and it's not just me. It happens with both of us. It's because we didn't want to say what was really on our mind at the time because we were either trying to avoid an argument, someone was feeling down and we didn't want to make them feel more down, those kind of things. And I don't think there's anything wrong with that per se. But if you're doing it just because you don't want the other person to know how you feel,
something wrong with that.
There's something wrong with that. And that's kind of what I'm talking about. It's like it's okay to disagree with somebody else. And in the end, you might ultimately find you agree with them. But had you made your decision based on the early stages, you'd have walked away. Gotta have patience, people.
Or even
Patience.
partially agree with them.
Yeah, well, exactly. You don't have to exactly agree. You just have to get within the, like we've talked about before, there's boundaries, and you have to decide, well, are they close enough to where I am for it to be okay? Yeah. I personally do not think, for me, that I could live with a woman who was either really extreme left or really extreme right. I couldn't do it.
Because you live in the middle?
Because I'm in the middle. And the extremes in either direction are just way too much for me. I could not do it. But that doesn't mean I'm going to judge someone else who can.
Makes sense.
I mean, it's a personal thing, right? You feel a certain way about those types of people, and so you don't want to get yourself involved. Enough said. Other person's like, yeah, I've got no problem with it. Why would I care that they don't have a problem with it? I mean, it like makes zero sense to care. Don't control other people, etc., 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 etc. Someone put, oh, well, they were talking about those masks. Well, if it's really all lives matter to you, put on the damn mask and save other people's lives. Well, the problem is that political parties now are like, they create these narratives, and if you're following party A, you're going to take their narrative and preach it over and over and again. And if you're in party B, you're preaching their narrative over and over again. And nobody takes the time to think independently about what their party is saying, because you know what? You could be a Democrat and not believe the extreme Democrat things, and you could be a Republican and not believe the extreme Republican things, just like I can be a libertarian and not believe the extreme libertarian things. You're allowed to live in pragmatism. You're allowed to do that in life in general. Like, we haven't talked much about this, but it pisses me off that people are trying to force people to get political. Some people don't feel comfortable with it or have zero interest in it. That does not make them a bad person.
Right.
But yet you get people on social media shaming people to post about things. I didn't see anybody posting about this, and I'm talking to you, white friends. Like, stop it. There's zero reason for that. That just because they don't post, you have to believe what they tell you until you have evidence otherwise. And if they tell you they're with you and they tell you they back your movement, then they back your movement. But it doesn't mean they're going to start publicizing that to everybody. Some people don't like being attacked by other people.
No, some people only like to post puppies and kittens on social media, and that's okay.
Exactly. Well put. After I talked for 25 minutes, she comes out with a 30-second snippet that just literally nailed it. What she said is the answer.
Also, I would like to kick in the teeth the person who decided that the only way to make everybody equal and everybody feel safe and happy in their existence was to decide white people were the worst and hate them about everything. That's just the comment I have to make about what you just said.
Well, but I've told you for a long time that I think that two major parties are basically a carbon copy of one another.
Uh-huh.
They just are different sides of the extreme middle. That's it. That's all it is. And this side hates this side, and this side hates that side.
Because they're all dumb.
And it's because they're just told to be that way. So it's stupid. But instead, why can't you think about, I don't agree with this, and I don't agree with this, and I don't agree with this. So that kind of starts to swing me towards the other side. But I'm still in this side. So overall, I align better with this side.
Do you know when that stuff starts to change? When they stop requiring people to register as a party to pick who they want to run for president. And when they introduce at least one other party for people to choose from. I mean, because, of course, we've already established that you don't agree that the Canadian system is better, and I don't know that it's a beautiful system either. But there are a lot less people who are like, I'm a staunch progressive conservative in Canada, because there's more different things to choose from, so they can find something that aligns better with their beliefs each time. But of course, you're just going to sit there and disagree with me now because you must.
No, I can only go based off of my experience with Canadian people, and not just people that I've met through you, but just in general. And they're super nice people. Every last one of them are super nice people.
That's not.
But they don't change their mind on issues. They don't change their mind on issues.
Okay.
They think a certain way. They think that way. The only reason they're quote, party affiliation changes is because the person in the other party shifts the message of that party closer to their ideology. And then they, oh, I buy into that.
Exactly what I was trying to say.
But the point is, the part about what you said that I 100% agree with is nobody should register for a party. It's just you register to vote. You are now a voter.
And throw all 35 people who want to run for president on the ballot.
And what about the people who run for president? Not allowed to have a party designation. That needs to be kept private.
Interesting.
Because you know what? It's going to if you really are interested in voting for the president, you then have to pay attention to what they're saying to you. And you're going to naturally be drawn to the person who speaks to the issues in a way that matter to you.
Then you should just do away with parties in general and just have people run.
I want to say that it was Thomas Jefferson, but I'm thinking I'm wrong. Said parties are bad.
But you either need more than 2.
We either need to eliminate parties altogether or we need to have like 6.
Right. Because it's polarizing to have 2. No wonder you have people on the right and the left because they feel like they have to be on the right or the left. But if you have 6 per se, 3 of them can be somewhere to the right of middle, and 3 of them can be somewhere to the left of middle.
Okay, but here's the
thing.
You
can align with who you feel the best.
I 100% see what you're saying. I 100% see what you're saying, but I see one huge, glaring, massive flaw that tells me the only way to do this is to eliminate parties. The huge, massive, glaring flaw is if you allow people to pick which party they belong to, you wind up in the exact situation you're in right now. A whole crap ton are going to say they're Democrat, a whole crap ton are going to say they're Republican, and then a little bit are going to say they're Libertarian, and a little bit are going to be the Green Party, and a little bit are going to be American Independent. It's not going to change, okay? So then the only other idea I had was make them take one of those like I side with quizzes and see where they fall on an ideology scale, and then make them mandatorily have to register for that party if it's this percentage or higher. But I don't like that because you're controlling people. So the only other option is get rid of the parties.
I have an idea. Okay, so I side with people. They clearly have a lot of data.
Hell yeah.
Okay, so say you have 4 candidates running for, let's take your supervisor race as the example. There was 3 of you from various places on the political spectrum, 3 of you.
Yeah.
What they should do is they should just have the 3 of you come in and fill out the I side with quiz to see where you stand on all of the issues. You know, like have you answer the questions as candidate. And then when people go in to vote, they feed them the questions, they answer it, and they don't even know who they voted for.
Yeah. Maybe. I mean, but that's, again, open to corruption. There's just so many reasons why, our founding fathers, what they did survived so well because they took the time to really make it work.
Did you realize how much better representation people would get if they didn't know which candidate they were picking, but picked them strictly on what they believe about things?
100%, because, okay, you got a guy, everyone was all excited. Justin Amash was leaving the Republican Party. Let's get him to be the Libertarian Party, and then he can be the presidential candidate, and we'll actually have a chance to win, and blah, 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 blah. Well, I say, sellouts. The guy's still a Republican. You're a sellout. You sit around and make fun of Republicans and Democrats and pick apart their ideology, but then you suddenly get a chance to win the presidency and you open your arms with big wide grin on your face and say, come here, Justin, come here. Nope. Fraud. That is fraud. Don't do it. It's stupid.
But anyway, blind choosing. Who do you think would be the president of the United States if everybody blindly chose based on what they actually believe?
Well, if you think about it logically, you can't even answer that question yet because the way the system is designed, nobody can run for president because they don't have ballot access across the country. Only the major parties have ballot access every single time.
I was asking you to answer based on the 3 people who we know are currently running for president.
Well, I mean, I'm going to be real. Trump and Biden are the same person. They're the same person. Trump was a Democrat until...
With a different fan base.
Trump was a Democrat until a few years back.
Okay.
And even the way he Republicans is more like a Democrat. Trump and Biden are the same. Then you got Jo Jorgensen. She's got her weaknesses. There's some things I question. But...
Apparently she likes whiskey and hockey.
but she seems like she's ready, like she's on the ball enough to do it. And to me, that's like the key consideration. That's more important to me than who you are.
She's the one out of the three that's not senile, so there's that.
Well, that's that too. And that's what I would do. That's who I would vote for. Because
That wasn't the question.
I think she's going to be amazing. And I think had you did your program the way you said, that's who people would vote for. Because I think most people reside more in the middle. And
they're just too afraid to...
And they probably easily identify as libertarian because the ideology itself is a little bit loose. It's not as strict. So it would be easy to say, oh, you're a libertarian. Easily that party could grow to be huge. But people are so stuck. And that's the thing. Why not just get rid of the party and make your decision based on you pay attention and you listen to what they say. And then you go, oh, I like that one. That one sounds good to me. And make your choice that way, like from actually listening to the candidate. Think that'd be smart.
Well, and I think it would also make it easier for candidates to fundraise who are lesser known because there wouldn't be big, giant businesses only supporting the Democrat candidate in their area.
Right, but how does this have anything to do with what our topic was?
It really doesn't.
Oh, it does, though.
Okay, you tell it
What was
together.
our topic?
I don't remember.
Yes, you do.
No, I don't.
You don't remember the topic?
Learning from history.
Learning from history. Our philosophy about history. And it's the same thing. If you keep seeing this party and then this party constantly being in control, and you don't like where things are and you want change, why are you going to keep voting for this party or that party?
Because you're insane?
Exactly. It's crazy. But people do it all the time. It's like the thing these days. So that's how it feeds back to that. It's like, you got to stop and give things thought. End of story. There's nothing else I can say about that.
Well, if you have nothing else to say about that.
Hold on a second. One last thing.
He lied. Clearly
For those of you stuck at home or who still feel the need to be stuck at home and you haven't seen any of it yet, get on Netflix and watch Mr. Iglesias. It's funny.
He's clearly amused.
Funny. I love that show. It is funny.
You know what's interesting? You had never heard of it, and then I made you watch it because I think Gabriel Iglesias is hilarious. And now
it's
you
another
like
one of those
it,
things we agree
and
with
that's
each other
awesome.
on. It's another one of those things we agree with each other on.
Well,
and that's but I mean, I talked about that early on in our discussion tonight. So,
on that hilarious note, good night, everyone.
Hasta la bye-bye, Mr. Iglesias. Thank you for listening to the Nightly Rant.
If you enjoyed the show, please give us a 5-star rating on Apple Podcasts or Google Play.
If you didn't enjoy the show, please just ignore that previous request for a rating.
This has been a Yogi's Podcast Network production.